This is Red from the Red blog coming at you with another edition of MLB Observations Week 15 of the Hot Stove, aka the off season, ending 2024 to regular season going to this year's 2025. Start off quickly, Twins DFA'd Ronnie Henrique. Nick Anderson signed with the Cardinals. If he's healthy, that would be a really good move for the Cardinals bullpen to set up to Ryan Helsley because Nick Anderson used to close. Brandon Easter is now in the White Sox after the waivers and stuff, and so they DFA Steven Wilson, who got officially outrighted, and that move didn't really work out for the Sox. Roansy Contreras is on the Orioles, so they DFA'd Daz Cameron, but he accepted his outright assignment, so he'll be in AAA. Yariel Rodriguez, they announced he will be competing for a Blue Jays rotation spot because with the injuries that happened last year, they had some young guys who made the rotation, but with them adding Max Scherzer, that just had one less spot in the rotation, but at least he's going to compete because I think he's pretty talented, the former Cuban national player. Yuri Perez, the Marlins announced that he'll probably be back at the All-Star break, so good news for the Marlins then. Connor Siebold and Trey's Barrera have gone to the Rays. Minor league deal organizational depth. Eddie Romero to the Giants. Pirates outrighted Alika Williams. Jonathan Diaz got elected free agency, but then the Mariners re-signed him. Dylan Coleman to the Orioles, a minor league deal. Rob Kamenetsky, the Cardinals minor league deal. Again, organizational depth. Austin Voth is going to Japan, and that's what happens when you've been a starting pitcher, but also relief pitcher, and you go back and forth the last 5 or 6 years. You can actually get an opportunity maybe to start in Japan. The Cubs announced that John Birdie could see some work as the backup first baseman Michael Busch, which again, both of them are not natural-born first basemen, so that's what's happening there. I put the Connor Joe as a minor league signing in a different spot because I didn't realize it was a major league deal because this is the guy who I've been saying is who plays corner outfield. If he's a first baseman DH, he's not meant to play the outfield. He's more of a platoon backup player. But the Padres, again, Luis Arraez at first base, they could potentially DH him. And, you get some at-bats at first base for Connor Joe. Obviously, there's a huge hole in left field with Jerkson Profar as a free agent, but I don't think Connor Joe's going to fill that up. The Dodgers announced Tanner Scott will be the closer, even though they signed Kirby Yates and have all those other good relief pitchers, so good news for Tanner Scott, who, when he got traded from the Marlins to the Padres, was actually setting up for Suarez. Emmanuel Rivera accepted his outright assignment after the Orioles did some roster move. Dylan Covey, the officially elected free agency, and now he's on a minor deal with the Atlanta Braves, so the Braves get some organizational depth with Covey. Jason Junk's on a minor deal with the Marlins. Ronaldo Hernandez signed a minor deal with the Yankees. Luis Guillerme has signed a minor deal with the Astros, and that's really good organizational depth because this guy is a really good defensive infielder, and the Astros could get some help there in case of injury. Josh Stallman's gone to the Reds. It's not a bad relief signing because they, as I mentioned, they got Taylor Rogers the other day, so it's not a bad move. Bad news for the White Sox is Kai Busch is going to have Tommy John surgery. You kind of wish that if it happened last season during the season, that he'd come back this year. But having it now means there's maybe a chance that he's available to start next year and not, be behind in the season. So that's bad news for Sox there. Michael Peterson's gone to the Angels and DFA'd Kevin Kakarka. Brent Headrick's gone to the Yankees, so they DFA'd Owen White. Atlanta also picked up Jake Diekman, the veteran reliever who also was on the Mets. He's been around the block before on many, many teams, so that's a useful piece for the Braves bullpen, which is, I think, one of their weaknesses. Not many weaknesses on Atlanta. Marlins DFA'd Ronnie Henrique after they just, I think picked him up from the Twins. They picked him up, my bad, and they DFA'd Xavier Curry. Diamondbacks signed pitchers John Curtis and Scott McHugh. Good original depth. The Pirates announced that Spencer Horwitz will be recovering from wrist surgery, so he may miss the start of the season. I was really hoping that an everyday opportunity to play first base or DH and none of the second base crap the Blue Jays were doing, so that's what I was hoping, but little setback, hopefully doesn't ruin things. Rangers signed JT Chargos, the veteran reliever. That's good organizational depth for them. Cubs officially outrighted Rob Zancerniski. Royals announced James McCarthy is recovering from elbow surgery. They're not sure when he's coming back. Cardinals won their arbitration hearing versus Brandon Donovan, but lost to Lars Nootbaar, so it evens out. Drew Smith is re-signed with the Mets. I guess that's a major league deal, they said. Again, organizational depth is just one of their other relievers. Tigers announced Alex Cobb won't be ready for opening day, but the Tigers are hoping for the playoff, so they can wait for him to come back and eat significant innings. Mason Engelor is now on the Rays. They traded him for Drew Summer. Tyler Alexander signed with the Brewers. Again, that's organizational depth. Brewers did announce that D.A. Hall has been shut down several weeks with a lat strain. That's not good for their rotation. Padres announced that Steve Kohler will be stretched out in spring training, so he will get an opportunity to compete for a rotation spot. And Kyle Hart's on a 1 year, $1.5 million deal with the Padres. Also, I thought this was a minor signing because I never heard of this guy, but they gave him a major league deal. Diamondbacks said they're going to stick to a 5-man rotation, which means Jordan Montgomery is the odd man out, if healthy, this whole rotation. It's a big question. Andre Palat won his arbitration hearing versus the Cardinals. Orioles announced that Trevor Rogers and Jorge Mateo won't be ready for the start of the season. Mateo's a useful utility guy, and Trevor Rogers was one of their trade deadline acquisitions in the rotation, so we'll see how that impacts them. Sean Anderson signed with the Angels as, again, organizational depth. David Hensley signed a minor deal with the Tigers. This corner infielder who's also played corner outfield and DH will be organizational depth for this team. Philly signed Christian Arroyo to a minor league deal. Again, organizational depth. The utility guy can play pretty much everywhere. Dodgers signed Luis Garcia. Again, this veteran reliever has been around the block, so at some point he can probably help them out significantly with innings. Philly signed Oscar Mercado to a minor league deal. He's a really good defensive outfielder, formerly of Cleveland and other team. So that's good organizational depth. And the Cubs signed utility infielder Dixon Machado, not Mercado, but Machado to a minor league deal. White Sox signed Tristan Gray to a minor league deal. Again, not a big deal, but they signed Brandon Drury to a minor league deal. And the Sox don't have a guaranteed third baseman. Yeah, they got Vargas. Yeah, they got Ramos. Yeah, they've had Lynn Sosa play over there, but it's not guaranteed. Colson Montgomery's the leading man at shortstop, but again, they like Brooks Baldwin. He could play shortstop. And then again, Brooks Baldwin is second base or Sosa. So they did sign Josh Rojas, but he's played second base and third base. And they signed Bobby Delback to a minor league deal, who is a third baseman. So Brandon Drury has the experience of being a corner infielder, outfielder, and even playing some middle infield on top of second base like shortstop. So that's a good move. I can see why signing here is a good idea because some of these guys sign minor league deals. I'm like, there's no room for them. But there's there. Diamondbacks signed Trey Mancini, who's trying to make another comeback to a minor league deal. He's been on a few teams since the Orioles let him go after being a cancer survivor and all-star. And again, Pavin Smith is penciled in as the first baseman with Christian Walker gone, and Randall Grichuk penciled in as the DH. But that still means there's a potential opening for him to get some at-bat. Speaking of comebacks, Jeurys Familia, the former Mets and A's all-star setup man and closer, is attempting a comeback. It's been a few years since he's pitched, but he has in recent years pitched, in Latin America, so it's not like he hasn't pitched that long ago, but he's trying to make a comeback. Padres signed Jason Hayward, and last year, David Peralta was very huge for them when Tatis was hurt. So now, as I mentioned earlier with the Connor Joe signing, that there's a hole in left field, and Jason Hayward could probably fill that in a part-time role for the Padres, because he's a really good defensive outfielder. Speaking of really good defensive outfielders, Kevin Kiermaier is now a special assistant with the Blue Jays. He follows in the path of recent weeks of Charlie Blackmon, who just retired, and the Rockies hired him. And Adam Jones, who hadn't played in a while, the Orioles announced he's a special advisor. So, the Blue Jays really liked Kevin Kiermaier. I'm surprised not with the Rays, but that's where he played most recently. Obviously, won the World Series with the Dodgers. Marlins announced their Hall of Fame class will be Louis Castillo, the Gold Glove second baseman, two of the greatest managers in Marlins history, Jack McKeon and Jim Leyland, who's a Hall of Famer himself, and Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin himself, who 2 years ago I went to Miami, and I went for Conine weekend, and due to terrible customer service, I didn't get that upright standing next to him photo. I just talked to him and got an autograph. But yes, he is one of my favorite players of all time. I know the Marlins have a Hall of Fame. It's kind of tiny. I saw the display and stuff 2 seasons ago, but I didn't know they didn't have a Hall of Fame class. But that's pretty good for its Hall of Fame class. 2 All-Stars and 2 really good managers, and one's in the Hall of Fame. Padres also signed Gavin Sheets. So you throw him in the mix with Jason Hayward and Connor Joe, and you get some guys who can play first base and DH. So Arise, who's not really a first baseman, could be either DH or vice versa. That's a good move because there's a clear path for opportunity for at bat. Dodgers have re-signed Kiki Hernandez to a $6.5 million deal. I don't see a clear path because they just got a foreign import at second base, so they had to say goodbye to Gavin Lux. They still got Rojas backing up Mookie Betts, and they still have Chris Taylor on the roster, and they still got 2 really young outfielders, and they still got Tommy Edman penciled in center field, even with the 2 young outfielders, and they signed Conforto, and they re-signed Hernandez, and of course Ohtani and Muncy and Freeman account for the first base, third base, and DH. Where's Kiki Hernandez going to play? Just going to be extra. Shota Imanaga announced the Cubs announced he's going to be pitching in the Tokyo series to start the season. That's pretty good. Cool opportunity there. The A's announced they're going to have a special Ricky Henderson 24 patch this season, while the Reds are going to have a 14 patch for Pete Rose, and the Brewers are going to have a patch for Bob Uecker for the Hall of Famer. Hall of Fame announced that the plaques are going to be Mariners for Ichiro, which makes sense. Dave Parker for the Pirates should make sense. And Billy Wagner for the Astros, because, yeah, he spent a significant amount of time with Houston, even though he played for Philadelphia and the Mets and Atlanta. Makes a lot of sense. Yankees with Sabathia, because I think he pitched a few more seasons and won a World Series, but I was thinking that he had a real impact with Cleveland. And then Dick Allen with the Phillies, because he spent more seasons than he did with the White Sox, but I feel like most of his impact was with the White Sox. But that's what it is. Yankees picked up Tyler Matzek. That's good rotational depth in their bullpen because he's been around the block. Scott Barlow is joining Josh Stallman in Cincinnati on a $2.5 million deal with the move they made for Rogers. You got Rogers, Stallman, Barlow, and Alexis Diaz, the all-star closer. That's not a bad bullpen for the Reds who are trying to go up. Angels gave Kenley Jansen a $10 million deal to be their closer. Again, Angels are not going anywhere, but if Kenley Jansen's healthy and reliable enough as a closer for this team, he could be flipped at the deadline, and they can get some prospects back or some sort of player back. Clayton Kershaw also re-signed like Kike Hernandez did with the Dodgers for a $7.5 million deal, but will start the year in the 60-day injured list. So we don't know when he's going to pitch, but he just wants to continue to pitch. But again, the Dodgers have so many pitching options that they've signed or traded for this offseason, like Blake Snell to begin with, that I don't understand. And guys coming back from surgery, that where is he going to pitch? Twins have signed Ty France, the former All-Star first baseman who formerly played some left field, second base, and third base of Seattle, San Diego, and most recently with the Reds. Hey, the Twins lost Carlos Santana free agency, and Alex Kirilloff retired. So there's some opportunity for some first base and DH at-bats for him, so that makes sense. Royals announced that Ned Yost is back with the Royals in a senior advisor role, which makes sense. He took them to a World Series twice and won one. The Mets announced Jose Buto, the young starting pitcher who's pitched out of the bullpen, because I thought there was room in the rotation because I think he's more talented than Peterson and McGill. He's going to stay in the bullpen. Marlins signed Cal Quantrill to a $3.5 million deal. And again, Miami's best pitcher is Perez, who said to not be back to the All-Star break. Alcantara's coming back from Tommy John surgery. So you're going to need pitching. You need going to be arms. And Cal Quantrill at one point was pretty good for Cleveland. Kind of fell off a bit in recent years. Angels, because this is a former Nationals player, is Anthony Rendon is going to have hip surgery, so he's going to be out for a very long time. Which now you signal, that's why they give Yohan Moncada a guaranteed deal. That's why they sign a lot of these veteran infielders to minor league deal. Because they know for a fact that Anthony Rendon is never going to play, so you might as well get a guy on a low-level deal like Moncada or guys to minor league deals and just piece together your infield. White Sox, they give him Michael A. Taylor a $1.95 million deal, which I don't get. It makes no sense. You rush to sign corner outfielder DH, who has no business playing center field, and Austin Slater, who's really good in a platoon role, to play right field. You say goodbye to Zach Deloach and Corey Julks, who I wanted to try Deloach because he's a young guy who's not given a chance to be proven. And Corey Julks seemed to always get on base or get a hit when he played for the Sox when I went to games last year. And I thought Dominic Fletcher could win a Gold Glove in right field. And then he also got Mike Tauchman, who's the perfect fourth outfielder for a playoff team because he can play all three spots, and he's a very useful player, Chicago native. So why did he need Michael A. Taylor? Michael A. Taylor won a Gold Glove, had 120 home run season, and hasn't had the same offensive production in any other season, and didn't have a great season with the Pirates last year when they had a crowded outfield. Do the Sox think Luis Roberts is not going to stay healthy, or are they going to trade him this year? And then Michael A. Taylor plays center field? You don't need three veteran outfielders in right field when you're a bad team like the White Sox. You'd rather play Deloach, Corey Julks, or Dominic Fletcher in right field. That's what I would think. But for right now, is Mike Tauchman and Michael A. Taylor going to platoon in right field and Austin Slater going to DH? Because we don't have Gavin Sheets anymore? I don't know. That's why it doesn't make any sense for the Chicago White Sox. I'm saying we meant to say as fans, we're like, we don't get this move. We really, really don't. And Pat Mahomes Sr., between Twitter and in real life, had gotten into it, John Rocker. So they announced they're going to have some boxing match. So look out for that. Tigers gave John Brevy a $2.75 million deal. He's had some okay years. He was okay with the White Sox. Wasn't the most healthiest, but the Tigers are trying to make the playoffs, so that's a veteran move for them. And and then Jacob Jr. signed a $4.5 million deal with Cleveland. Again, he can start, he can relieve. That's a useful piece. Kendall Graveman got a $1.35 million deal with the D-backs, and he's coming back from major surgery the last year or two. But if he's healthy, that helps the Diamondbacks, who are trying to be a playoff team with a veteran reliever. They announced that Marcus Stroman's going to be away from the Yankees because of his whole weird offseason trying to trade him, so he's not in camp. Jake Marisnick signed a minor deal with Atlanta, and they're really covering their bases with Acuna missing time and them not trusting Jarred Kelenic, and last year having all these cluster of injuries with Michael Harris and Kelenic in the outfield. That, yeah, Jake Marisnick is another outfielder. They signed a minor league deal, a major league deal. The White Sox did sign Joey Gallo to a minor league deal, and I kind of get that because it's a non-guaranteed move. It's a minor league deal. They have a hole at DH, and Joey Gallo's also been a Gold Glove right fielder and corner outfielder in his career. And he's been a while since he's played third base, but these are positions that the Sox don't have guaranteed stuff. So that makes sense. Again, it's a minor deal. It's not guaranteed. It's not a lot of money. And then the Pirates announced that Daniel Vogelbach is going to be a special assistant hitting instructor for the Pirates. So that means the veteran first baseman DH, his career is over. I'm guessing for now, which thinks I finally got his card in the last few years. So the Pirates have hired him. And the last two big moves before I get to something that is not on my notes is that Nick Pivetta, who had a qualifying offer, finally got picked up by the Padres for $55 million over 4 years. And they already have a Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish, and Michael King top three. Joe Musgrove, I think he's out for the year, so you don't want to include him, but they already have a really good top three. So Nick Pivetta sliding into the fourth spot behind Cease, King, and Yu Darvish, that's not bad. And it took him so long to sign because he had the qualifying offer, and now you're starting spring training, so you just wanted to get him in there. That's why a lot of these teams are signing these pitchers, and you're hearing these announcements. Last of the major moves is Alex Bregman signed a 3-year, $120 million deal with the Red Sox. So no reunion in Houston, no going to the Cubs, who clearly have a hole at third base by trading Paredes to those Astros, and the Tigers, who have a young guy in Chase Young, but they're questioned about his injury, and they didn't want to move Cole Keith to third base. He signed with the Red Sox, who already have Rafael Devers. That's A, so I don't get it. And B, they're not going to sign Rafael Devers over at first base because they got a young first baseman in Tristan Costa. The real question is, would you make Rafael Devers the DH and throw Yoshida in left field so that you can play Durant exclusively in center field and Willer Abreu in right field? Then you're like, what do you do with Setien and Rafaela? He was going to get some at-bats in the outfield. So that's why I don't really see the 100% fit, because right now what it's looking like is Alex Bregman is going to play second base, a position he hasn't played in the major league. He is a natural-born shortstop, so I think he can handle the middle infield, but I also don't think that's a great idea to go and learn a new position. The Red Sox did that. I'm going to tell you this with Trevor Story before, where they signed a guy and there was no room at his natural position, so he went and played the other one, and he had a terrible season. And ever since Trevor Story, even though he's now playing shortstop, he has been healthy. So, I just don't get the move there. I'm a huge Alex Bregman fan. I'm glad he's not on the Cubs, because then, personally, the way the Cubs setup is, you can't really interact. Didn't want him on the Tigers because I don't like the Tigers. So, yeah, don't get the second base. You didn't get the long-term deal like the Pete Alonso wanted, and then you're playing a new position. And, yes, I would say this. Rafael Devers third and Alex Bregman cleanup is a really good 3 through 4. None of this business of them, being second. And the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame announced their class this year. It's going to be Amanda Asay, Arlene Noga, Jerry Snyder, Greg Hamilton, and slugger Jose Batista, and starting pitcher Eric Bedard. Congratulations to them. And the Cleveland Guardians announced their roster for the broadcasting. Rick Manning will be a color analyst. Cody Allen will be a pre- and post-game with Ben Broussard, who I guess now working for the White Sox. Chris Jimenez, the former backup catcher. Cody Allen was their closer. Nick Goody was a pitcher for them briefly. Austin Jackson, we all remember him as a really good center fielder. And Jason Kipnis, their former all-star second baseman. So thanks again for listening to the edition of MLB Observations, Hot Stove Edition, Week 15, a.k.a. the offseason ending in 2024 to the 2025 season. For On the Rain Tay blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.